It is Tuesday, December 14th, 2021. I'm here in Atlanta, Georgia on another beautiful day. High of 65 degrees, sunshine, no clouds, no humidity, and like a, 2 to 3 or 4 mile an hour light breeze. It is picture perfect, and I'm actually off the trail here at Cherokee Bluffs, maybe 20 feet. So there have been people that have been passing me and saying what a beautiful day that it is. They're walking their dogs, they're having fun. In fact, I just saw a guy that walked his 2 dogs off the leash as the dogs were little dogs that were staying on the trail, and he actually got off the trail and was walking down towards the lake that they have here. And the dogs didn't know what to do because they were on the trail still. They were like, wait a minute, owner, aren't we supposed to stay on the trail? And so it was funny that the dog behind the lead dog was basically thinking that it was supposed to stop and go follow the owner, but the lead dog kept going. And finally the lead dog turned to the right to go down off the trail towards its owner. So anyways, getting really, really busy, doing lots of sessions for people. Yesterday, my gosh, we had, must have been 6, 7, 8 requests for sessions. So it is increasing. People are really wanting, desperate for wanting peace in their lives. And it's no fun to be controlled by another person, controlled by your spouse, being yelled at and controlled in subtle ways, controlled in more overt ways. And we do have the solution. We understand what it's like here at Restored to Freedom. We understand that we have the solution for it. People can choose to get healed from their past wounds that caused them to trigger and go off on their spouse, on their children, and hurt them, and then cause them to want to get away from that control and that manipulation. And it is possible. We have seen, obviously, lots of people who have been healed and delivered, but then there's those that refuse to. They have a free will. They can keep their demons. They can continue to try to control you, but you have to make the decision. Do you want to be controlled for the rest of your life and do nothing for the Lord? Or do you want to obey the Lord and obey Jesus? So, yay! Anyways, hello to people out on Facebook land. I see Tina Kirkpatrick. I see, who else is there? Amy Mitchell. Hello to people on YouTube. Linda. Hello, hello, hello. And others that are joining on. So, interestingly, now there's a guy that's mowing the grass here at the park. I'm hoping that he doesn't start to mow behind me here. Always take the chance when you do a live outside, especially at a park location, that they might be mowing the grass one of the days, and they might be doing it during the time. Looks like he's going in the right direction, in the correct direction, on the other side of this place. So anyway, I was at Publix getting some groceries right before I came over here, and I happened to notice, they have the National Enquirer that they have for sale there, and Globe, and like National Geographic. Well, I just happened to notice that the magazine covers that they had were quite interesting. They have the National Enquirer there, and it had a picture of Joe Biden, and it said, Biden's secret $3.8 billion dirty deal. And then in the smaller fonts below it, it said, Shady Son Hunter played go-between for Joe. And I'm thinking, wow, why are they allowing, albeit being the National Enquirer, but why are they allowing information that is damaging and negative about Biden to be on there? So that was quite interesting. And then a magazine above that was called the Globe magazine, and it had Ghislaine Maxwell. Remember her and Jeffrey Epstein, that they had people come out to this island and flew on their plane that were having sex with oftentimes underaged kids, girls. So you would not want to be listed as a participant of that. And it said in there, the cover of it had a picture of Ghislaine Maxwell, and it said Maxwell's Little Black Book. And of course, there's a trial going on right now where they are exposing a lot of people that were there. The pilot was talking about it And it's amazing. People don't want to be exposed when they're in sins. So that was there. And then they had National Geographic, and it had the story of Jesus on it. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, maybe there's going to be some more truth, even albeit from the National Enquirer and Globe, but hopefully some truth that is going to be coming out and helping people to realize that they need to get right with God, with the Lord. They need to get their soul wounds healed, to get delivered from their demons, and then be able to behave in a godly way, and they wouldn't have anything to cover up then. So anyway, interesting. My schedule coming up is tonight. I will be in Atlanta at the Atlanta Live. It's a TV station, Channel 57 in Atlanta. I think it's pretty sure it's the largest Christian station in all of Atlanta. I've been on there at least 3 times before. Last time was in January. And this time I will be on there tonight. It starts at 7 p.m. They do live stream it. I did post on my Facebook profile, as well as the Restorative Freedom page, as well as the Soul Wound Healing and Demon Deliverance group, the link to their live streaming. I think it's WATC57.com, I think. But you can watch it if you want. Watch it live. It is a live show. They have live music, and then they interview normally a couple of guests. The first time I was on there, they had Real Talk Kim as another guest, and they had Mark Rutland, who was the president of ORU, Oral Roberts University. So I don't know who's going to be on there with me, but it's always good to be on there. I'm going to be talking about my new book, Freedom from Soul Wounds and Demons. Talk about the correlation between when we get hurt, we get wounded, how demonic spirits will chime right in with our thoughts, trying to cause us to be angry and bitter. So, all right. Let me see. December 26th, Worldwide Deliverance Session. January 15th, I'll be in Atlanta at the Atlanta Marriott Perimeter Center Hotel doing a breakthrough event. It's a Saturday night at 7. January 29th, Marriott Birmingham in Birmingham, Alabama. January 30th, Worldwide Deliverance Session. February 19th, Courtyard by Marriott in Orlando, Lake Mary, Florida. February 27th, Worldwide Deliverance Session. And March 5th at the brand new Residence Inn at Opryland in Nashville, Tennessee. And we'll probably be doing some scheduling later in March in Texas. So, topic of the day today was a suggestion by a 20-year-old young man from not too far from here, actually, who wanted me to talk about having the adult parents to allow their children to be heard and to be able to make some decisions on their own and not to be controlled and shut down or dismissed. So the topic of the day is courtesy of a 20-year-old young man. And again, I know I have kids as young as like 5, 6, 7, 8 that watch this teaching. I've met and talked to some of them, also met their parents. So it's amazing the demographics that the ministry appeals to, but the goal is to help people to get along and to have peace and to get healed from their wounds from their past, delivered from their demons, so they can actually have the fruit of the Spirit and love people, have joy and peace and patience and kindness, and get along and not fight, not strive, not argue between couples and spouses and families. So the topic of the day is how to have a healthy relationship with your children, which is important, obviously. If you have children, do you want to strive and fight and argue with them? You know, there's so many parents, and again, I talked about this a little bit yesterday, but there's so many parents that have not been healed from their own wounds, oftentimes from their own moms and dads, or sexual things that have happened to them. So they're going to have demonic spirits speaking to them, causing them to treat their own children in harsh ways, trying to control their children, trying to make their children do what they want, make their children behave, oftentimes because they don't want their children to embarrass them. They don't want their children to do things that would make them look bad in front of their own family or in front of their own neighbors or others at church. And so they want to force the child to do what they believe is the right thing to do. And is that the way that God treats us as children? Does he make us do everything that he wants? Or do we get harshly disciplined by getting yelled at or screamed at or spanked in anger, out of anger? No, God's not like that. God doesn't hate us. God doesn't want us to make us a puppet. He gave us free will to choose. Everyone has a free will. But people that have demons want to force you to do what they want. And again, as us growing up as parents, we've all been hurt and wounded, and we oftentimes will say things to our children that are harsh and mean. We end up damaging our own children. Now, it could be that it's your spouse or your ex-spouse that did the most damage to your own children. And oftentimes, I talk about the Jezebel spirit, people that are narcissists, they try to turn their own children away from their spouse, try to get them to hate them. And is that a healthy thing to do as a parent? Absolutely not. But would that be what a demonic parent would want to do? Absolutely, positively. So God loves us unconditionally. He gives us a free will to choose how to live. There are consequences if we make bad decisions or choose to sin. But what does he do? Does he hate us then at that point? No, he still loves us. He wants us to get our wounds healed, to get delivered, and then come back to him. You know, and there's people in the church that treat their children harshly. You know, oftentimes very religious people will control, manipulate, speak down to, talk down to, demand that their children do everything that they say and want them to do. And in many times it's wrong what they're doing, trying to make them to do, but that drives the child away. The child doesn't feel loved whatsoever. So the damage is done oftentimes by the children's own parents. So if we have hurt our own children, we need to own it. We need to apologize to them. And people that have a lot of pride, which you get pride if you've been hurt when you grew up, the Leviathan spirit, Job 41, verse 34 said it's king over all the children of pride. So again, when you get hurt, you get wounded, as you grow up, you will have pride that will tell you to protect yourself. You don't want to be hurt again, so you better make all the decisions and don't listen to anybody else. Don't let anybody else make a decision. So what will happen is your pride will get in the way and you won't be able to apologize to your children when you've overstepped your bounds, when you've been too harsh with them. And so all a child wants is to be heard. You know, yes, they want to be loved, but they want to be heard. And when you have been healed as a parent yourself and delivered from your own demons, then you're going to be a lot more patient with your children, and you're going to be able to listen to them. And that's what they want you to do, is to listen to them. Now, they may make bad decisions, they may make wrong decisions, but you still don't go off on them and yell and scream at them if they do make a bad decision. I mean, if you do, you will not have a good, healthy relationship, of course, with the child. The child will turn away from you, oftentimes want nothing to do with you. And then you end up oftentimes, if you have a lot of pride, you will then blame your child instead of owning what you've done to hurt them in the first place. So as the child grows up and they become a teenager and or adult child, you'll see a lot of them that have so many wounds and pains from their parents, and they want nothing to do with them. And then the parent wants to make them, force them to have a relationship. You can't do that. It will not work. So I know that in the past there's been books written talking about having a tough love for your child. And I think about God, and I'm thinking, does God tough love us? God loves us unconditionally, the way that we should be loved. But what happens when we get hurt and wounded? We oftentimes will take it out on God, blame him, be angry at God, turn away from him, want nothing to do with him, and then God's still there saying, hey, I love you. I'm waiting for you to hopefully come back and have a relationship with me. And oftentimes us as a child of God or an adult person of God, we come to see the error of our ways, and we're like, oh my gosh, this whole time I was angry and bitter, at my circumstances or what my grandfather or my father or my mother did to me, and I blamed it on you, God, when you weren't responsible for it. And a lot of times God does get the bad rap. Well, oftentimes we could be a parent, we could love the child the way that we should, and then all of a sudden something changes in their personality. They get starting to trigger on us, and they go off and treat us disrespectfully. In a lot of those cases, the child might have been shown pornography, might have been touched sexually, might have been molested, might have been raped, and then they're keeping it quiet, but their personality is going to change because they've had demonic spirits now that have legal rights to torment them. So then they will treat their parents in a different way, in a mean way, in a harsh way. And then that parent oftentimes takes an offense, gets mad and angry at them, and goes off on them. But there are so many parents that have never been healed or delivered from their own demons. So they're going to end up being very harsh with their own children. And then they'll blame their children when their children check out or not there, and the child wants to, oftentimes they're getting a lot of demonic thoughts telling them things that cause them anxiety or fear, or saying that they're worthless. Oftentimes the parent can chime in and say negative words over the child, and then the child just feels emotionally dead. They want nothing, they don't even want to live. They oftentimes get suicidal thoughts and get depressed. They don't know how to function. And the parent, in those cases, needs to apologize and say, I'm so sorry for the words that I've said, the actions that I've taken against you, and try to help that child to heal. And then the relationship can be restored. Otherwise, you'll see a lot of parents that are very harsh with their discipline, with their words and with their actions. And when the child's hurting already, they're not feeling heard. The parent will oftentimes tell them to be quiet or shut up or worse. And then the child just gets beaten down more and just wants to die, wants to get away from the parent. And you cannot, if you go ahead and start to slam on some discipline on top of all that, then the child's heart is completely wounded and dead. And it's true. I mean, you're not going to have a healthy relationship. Of course, the demons and the parent will tell them that you're right and speak it out all day long over your child. Just beat them down and tell them you're a boss and they don't count. And then oftentimes you'll see this is a parent will try to make the child become something that will make others impressed with them. Why? Because it will be a reflection of the parent. And so if the parent has other family members or friends or church people that will chime in and say things to the parent about their child, if the child ends up getting hurt and wounded, then the child's going to make some bad decisions. It's going to cause that parent to be embarrassed about how that child is behaving, and it's because of what their friends or family are going to say to them. So they're more afraid of these people that are family and friends than they are of having a true relationship with the child, humbling themselves before the Lord, apologizing for things that they may have done themselves. So you have to understand, you have to see it from the child's perspective. In the teenage child's world, they're already struggling. Oftentimes they can be struggling with kids at school. I deal with people all the time, taking them through sessions, and invariably a good percentage of them have been made fun of or bullied by kids in school who are also hurt and wounded. They're just simply manifesting on other children and saying things to hurt them, just like adults would do. So people that are wounded are going to hurt other people. And all that teenager wants to be from the parent side is to be loved in a healthy way. And if they feel loved, they feel safe and protected, then you can instruct and teach them, train them the way that they should go. But if you're being mean-spirited, controlling, harsh, every day, weeks and months go by, that child's heart's going to shut down to you. It's not going to trust you. It's the same concept of a dog, like of a puppy. You get a puppy that's not been hurt, not been wounded, they're going to be happy, 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 happy. But as soon as you start to talk harshly to the dog, if you kick the dog, you start treating the dog in bad ways, what does the dog do? The dog pulls away from you. It wants to get away, it wants to be protected, it wants to be safe. Oftentimes, you'll see its disposition will be very broken, very sad. You know, it's interesting. There was a dog that was rescued from the side of the road next to a cemetery that was very afraid. And the lady that rescued it brought it into her home, started to love on it, and love on it, love on it, love on it. And now the dog is free to run, to play. It feels safe, it feels protected, it feels secured. You know, the dog has been healed from the past, whereas prior it would be afraid to go anywhere outside. Now it's loves to go outside, loves to go into the woods and go on trails, and feels completely safe and protected. So the same thing happens with a child, with a teenager. When that teenager is growing up, if they have a parent that talks down to them, that's negative to them over and over and over, those words have an effect, and they will hear those words playing in their mind. There's so many adults that I've talked to that said that they can still remember the negative words that their dad or their mom told them in the exact tone over and over and over again. And a lot of that stuff's demonic, where the demons will bring it up so that that parent, that adult child now, will have a lot of anger and bitterness for their mom and their dad. So it's extremely important that before we condemn our child, you know, we should never condemn them, first of all. If they do something wrong, you know, there will be some natural consequences that they will go through. Now, I understand could be some significant consequences depending on if it's driving a vehicle, you know, and things that can happen with that if they're not mature enough to drive it safely and so forth. I understand that. Same thing if you have a little child that's 5 or 6, you wouldn't let them play, you know, next to the road and have them wander out in the road and get hurt. So there are some things you have to do. But we're talking about teenagers as they become whatever, 17, 18 years of age, 19, 20, then it's time for them to make some decisions on their own, and not to condemn them, not to put them down if they make a bad decision. You know, if you speak horrible negative words over them, then you will not have a relationship with the child, period, because they don't feel valued, they don't feel heard. So we need to value our children's thoughts and opinions. Always make sure that they know how much we love them. You know, God never makes us obey him. We have a free will to make decisions and choose. He always loves us, but if we choose to make bad decisions, then we will receive natural consequences. So, let me say this to you as an adult that's watching. I know we may have some children that are watching, but let's say that you're an adult, say that you're a parent. How would you react to your child if you had a daughter and they got pregnant outside of marriage? Would you go off on them, get mad, get angry, scream at them, tell them they have to get an abortion? You know, just think of that in those cases when that happens. Or do you say, you know what? You got consequences, but I love you. I still love you. I will always love you. And I'm sorry that this happened, and then help them to take responsibility for that decision. There's a lot of parents that it makes them look bad. They're afraid of what their neighbors will think. They're afraid of what their family will say. And so they yell and scream at their daughter, and the daughter ends up either getting an abortion or going away, getting away. And it's a sad situation, but they all need to feel loved. What happens if they smoke pot, or they cigarettes or vaping, and they why would they do that? First of all, why would they do that? Normally it's because they end up getting hurt and wounded, oftentimes from their own parents. Not all the time. It could be that they have been hurt and wounded with friends, people at school, that have also been hurt and wounded by their parents. So then they end up lamenting together and becoming friends, and then they end up doing things that are not healthy for them. People that have sex outside of marriage, drink alcohol to excess, do drugs. The only reason why they do all that is because they're hurt and they're wounded. They need delivered. They need healed from their wounds. And then they wouldn't have the desire to do that. Of course, they need to pursue Jesus. But there's so many people that they get hurt and then they do these things that are addictive to them. And it's basically a counterfeit comfort. They end up trying to get their wounds healed through substances. Some of it could be food, could be overeating food, could be using food to control their consumption by eating too little, and then end up controlling their weight away. So there's a myriad of ways that the enemy comes in to hurt us. And when we get the wounds healed, when we ask Jesus, why did my dad treat me this harsh way? Why did my mom treat me this way? Why did I get affected sexually and choose to have a lifestyle that is not pure sexually? Well, it's all because we got wounded, and Jesus will come and speak to you. Again, I do sessions with people every week, and invariably the Lord will say He's sorry for them being hurt by their father, by their mother, through sexual violations. And then the person gets healed when they choose to forgive those who hurt them. And they give their wounds to the Lord, and the Lord can come and to touch them and allow them to feel much more peace and more love. And a lot of people end up getting hurt sexually when they're young, and then they end up doing things as a teenager and later that they're not proud of. They come into the church, and the church does a very poor job of helping them get healed from their wounds, and then they struggle. Did you know that 50% of pastors struggle with pornography? So the reason why is because they were showed it when they were little, and they continued on, and they can't stop it. Oftentimes they feel very guilty and feel ashamed. So to get healed from that, I always tell people to go back to when you first were exposed or something sexual happened to you that you can remember, and then they can feel it. They know exactly what they felt. Oftentimes they feel ashamed, they feel condemned, they know what it was wrong. But then when we ask Jesus to come to speak to them, Jesus will always tell them, I love you. I am sorry that happened to you, that you were a victim. And when that person gives those wounds to Jesus, Jesus heals them and they feel more pure. Then you can command the demons to go that attach to it. And they feel cleansed. And they're like, oh my gosh, this is what I've been wanting to feel like forever. But I couldn't do it until I got healed and delivered from it. So Matthew 18, 1-7 says, at that time the disciples came to Jesus saying, who then is greatest in the kingdom of heaven? Then Jesus called a little child to him, set him in the midst of them, and said, assuredly I say to you, unless you are converted and become as little children, you will by no means enter the kingdom of heaven. Therefore whoever humbles himself as this little child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. Whoever receives one little child like this in my name receives me. Whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to sin, it would be better for him if a millstone were hung around his neck and he were drowned in the depths of the sea. Woe to the world because of offenses, for offenses must come, but woe to that man by whom the offense comes. So, if you have been hurt, you've not been healed, you've not been delivered, and you take it out on a child, whether it be your own or someone else, God is not happy with you. And yes, He will forgive you if you humble yourself and own it, and then you can get delivered from it. But the Lord loves the innocence of the children, and unfortunately the enemy, Satan, hates that. And so oftentimes a parent will take out all their anger and pain on their own children, and they will speak harshly to them and be mean to them, and the Lord's not happy with that. And that just infects that child oftentimes with the same demonic spirits that are affecting their parent. So just make sure that you pursue getting healed yourself, delivered, and then if you have hurt and wounded your child, and it's been, they're 30 years old now, or 25 years of age or older, then have little, if you can, discussions with your child, adult child, and own it. Say, I'm sorry for how I treated you, please forgive me. I was hurt myself, and that's the truth. Be honest with them, own it. If you're not willing to own it, then that will keep the distance between you. And again, it could be that they are believing lies about you from a spouse or ex-spouse that turned them against you. In those cases, it's going to be a little harder to get through because, again, they're believing lies from the enemy. But if you have been the one that has said some things to hurt them, then own it and then take responsibility for it. And then you'll have a much healthier relationship when the child, I've seen so many children when the parent has come to them and said, will you please forgive me for how I treated you in this situation or that situation? And the child is quick to forgive, and they're hopeful that the parent will start treating them now with more love, with more respect, and listen to them and allow them to have a voice. So, all right, I think that's it. So you can again tune in tonight at Atlanta Live, channel 57 in Atlanta, Georgia. It starts at 7 p.m. and I don't know what order, they tell us what order they're going to have the guest speak in. So they typically, I think, have 3, and it's on from 7 to 8. And it's on again tomorrow morning. I think it's like 7:30 or 8 in the morning, something like that. So, all right, I will let you guys go. See you on Facebook and YouTube. All right, bye-bye. Let's see here. I can really see the comments. Okay, on YouTube. All right, saying goodbye on YouTube.